Where you are, to tell you the truth. My name is Mike Schofield. I chair the Chicago Southland Economic Development Corporation. Thanks for coming out to our quarterly forum, number 1 for 2014. If I could, just for a second, it was a horrific accident yesterday on I-94. And if we could just have a moment of silence for the victims and the emergency service personnel, I just think that's appropriate. Just for a moment. Thank you. Thanks very much. You're going to be spared a significant amount of my usual wit, only because we have so many speakers. Sergeant of Arms, remove those people, please. But I have a great pleasure to introduce what I think has been called a man of the people, but given the temperature and the time of day, he's probably known later today as a man of the crazy people. I include myself in this, but if I could introduce Senator Dick Durbin. Please.
Thank you all very much. The year was 1990, and the Chicago Bulls were in playoffs, and they were playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. And a young player named Michael Jordan scored 69 points in that game. And after the game was over, they interviewed the center, Stacey King. And they said, what was it like to be out there and watch him score 69 points? And Stacey King said, as long as I live, I will never forget the game where Michael Jordan and I scored 70 points. I'm not going to forget this turnout at Sauk Village. Mayor Hanks, congratulations. You had a beautiful village hall. And it took a little investigation to figure out the key to his political success, but I've got it. 10 kids. God bless his wife and children who are with us. 5 boys and 5 girls. What a blessing. And thank you for your hospitality this morning. Well, Congresswoman Robin Kelly is here, and she and I were working on she deserves a round of applause. Robin. And I think that Robin Wheeler is here representing Congressman Bobby Rush. Is that correct? Thank you for being here. And I know that they're going through some sickness, illness in the family, and he couldn't attend, but we know that he'd be here otherwise. And so something happened that was miraculous in Washington just last week. We passed a budget. How about that? You did it all the time. But it was amazing because it's been so bad out there, there was even a 16-day government shutdown. And thank goodness the folks that thought that was a good idea didn't get a chance to repeat it. What happened in the House of Representatives was significant. The Republican Speaker, John Boehner, stood up and said, I'm going to support this bipartisan bill, and I don't care if other folks in my caucus don't like it. And I thought to myself, praise the Lord. I thought, I hope this is the beginning of some efforts to do things on a bipartisan basis and to get something done. Last year was awful. Now it's time to get something done. So Congressman Kelly and I were happy to support this and move forward to make sure that we have the funding for government, not just this year, through October 1st, but next year. So we're going to be able to have some constancy and predictability in terms of what we are going to do. But let me suggest there are a couple other things that I hope now will finally see some life in the House of Representatives. And one that means an awful lot to every single person in this room, particularly those who are in elected positions, municipalities, and other units of government. It's called the Marketplace Fairness Act. And the Marketplace Fairness Act will finally make sure that the sales tax is collected on the internet sales and come back to you in the locality and to the states. Now, this isn't a little deal, this is a big deal. It's a big deal because right now it's voluntary. It was about 2 or 3 years ago, the bookkeeper that does our tax returns called me and said, Senator, I'm doing your state income tax for you and your wife. Now there's this line here that says you will declare how much you purchased online and pay sales tax to the state of Illinois. You want to do that? I said, I think I do. So I did, and I went back and assembled my records as best I could and made an honest, good faith effort to put the right amount in there and pay the right tax. But it was voluntary. Voluntary. And as a consequence, in our state, most people who buy online don't do that. So the revenue is lost. The obligation is there to pay the tax, but the collection is a voluntary collection on state income tax. This would change it. This would say that when someone in your town, village, or city makes a purchase on the internet and turns in their address and zip code, it automatically keys it back to the Department of Revenue and back to you, so that you get your share of sales tax revenue. That's not only a good source of revenue, it's only fair. Think about those bricks and mortars businesses in every town in our state, and how those men and women, those small businessmen and women who work so hard to make a success of their business and to be good citizens, to make sure they're sponsoring the baseball teams and the events that are important, they need to have a level playing field. So we passed it in the Senate, 69 votes, which meant a good bipartisan strong vote, and sent it over to the House. And we're waiting, and waiting, and waiting, in the hopes that this is going to get done, and done quickly. So I hope that you will reach out to all of your members of Congress and the House of Representatives and encourage them to support and vote for and call for the passage of the Marketplace Fairness Act. It's a bill that I think is really important to our state and to the local units of government. Now we're also in the middle of talking about the next round of something that's critically important to Illinois. We love this state, and the reason this state has been so prosperous and created such a good life for so many of us and a good economy is we're smack dab in the middle of this great nation. And transportation, whether it's airplanes or ships that come through the ports or railroads or highways, are absolutely essential. Now we're moving into the next debate about the next transportation bill. And we got a problem. It's kind of a good problem in one respect. Our cars are more fuel efficient. And as a consequence, we burn less gasoline. That's good, right? Save a few bucks. But it also means fewer receipts into the Federal Highway Trust Fund. So more and more money has to come out of the general treasury, over $50 billion a year. So now we've got to find a way to make sure that we collect enough money to build and rebuild the infrastructure of America. It's a big challenge, and we have to do it. If there's one thing government can do to make the economy work, it's make the infrastructure of this country work. I've spoken to some of you about Ileana, Peatone. There are so many projects and infrastructure investments that are critically important. I want to give a salute to Congressman Kelly, who stepped up at a recent state hearing to talk about what Peatone should be, how it should be built, how it should accommodate the planes that can bring business to it, ultimately, that will be a benefit. Also on the Ileana, we know I was just talking about the development of the environmental impact statements. Anybody who's been to Centerpoint and sees what's going on understands the truck traffic that is involved in it. And the last point I'll make is this. When I talked about marketplace fairness earlier, keep in mind that Amazon, the largest online retailer in America, has endorsed this bill. They're tired of fighting the sales tax issue state by state. And when I talked to Mr. Bezos, who is the head of Amazon, we talked about where they're going, what they're going to do. He said to me, as soon as you can get this bill passed, I can guarantee you, we're going to start building warehouses and logistics transfer points all over Illinois. We want to reach the point where we can say to our customers across America, we're going to get delivery the next day. And I guess you saw some of the drones on 60 Minutes, which would even be faster. But here we go again, an opportunity for Illinois. And it's an opportunity we cannot miss. So it's good to be with you, and I want to continue to work with you. I want to introduce a couple people on my staff. Greg Bales, where are you, Greg? Over here, Greg Bales on my staff. When we had a chance to meet and work with him, and Clarisol Duque, I don't know if she's still in the room. She might have stepped out. But we thank you for all that you do, and look forward to working with you on a bipartisan basis. I never ask what your political affiliation is. I work with mayors from both political parties, and I hope they can all say that they've been treated fairly and professionally in our office. That's how it should be. When it comes to creating jobs and moving our state forward, party second. First obligation we all have is to do the very best for our state. Thank you all very much. Great to be here.
Thank you, Senator. Excellent. I don't know why I'm introducing Robin Kelly. This is her backyard. Robin, come on.
Good morning, everyone. I was just asked to say a few words. The Senator covered pretty much what was going on in D.C., but as many of you know, it's been about a long 9 months for me in Congress, but it's absolutely an honor to be there and to represent the district that I represent. I'll be running out shortly because actually the Senator and I and Senator Kirk, we will be going to Pullman because we're hoping that that is declared a national park, and we worked on that in a bipartisan way, and we know that'll bring economic development to the 9th Ward and to speak to the history of the labor movement and the civil rights movement, so we'll be doing that at 10:30 today. The Senator mentioned the airport. I will let you know that the state senators and state reps that are in the 2nd Congressional District will be meeting with Secretary Fox in D.C. in February to ask them to speed it along so that it's not another 10 years, but to complete the study so that we can move along with that topic. Also, yesterday I held a grants workshop for my municipalities and nonprofits. There were almost 100 people there. We ran out of room, and thanks to Mayor Reinbold and Richmond Park for allowing us to use this facility. We will be doing that again. We will have another jobs fair again, and on March 8th, we'll have a housing workshop because unfortunately the 2nd Congressional District has the highest rate of foreclosure in the state of Illinois. So we definitely want to tackle that issue in many ways, not just dealing with foreclosure, but financial literacy and what individuals and municipalities can do. We will have speakers and vendors there for you to speak with. But otherwise, just working hard. I go back on Monday. There's a State of the Union address. Hopefully we'll be dealing with the immigration issue again. We'll be dealing with the debt ceiling again also. So stay tuned for more, and thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We also have a representative from the General Assembly here, Anthony DeLuca. Anthony, are you around? Oh. Yes, thanks. Any words of wisdom from Springfield as a sort of a oxymoron? All right, enough said. I can't pass up one point, though. Boy, it's cold out. Boy, it's really cold out. Thank you. Now this will date me. It's so cold, even the Good Humor Man is in a bad mood. Anybody remember Good Humor Man? Okay, all right. Thank you. We had to chop up the piano for firewood, but we only got 2 chords. Yes, thank you very much. I saw Ed Pazel. Is Ed here today, Ed? Ed. Ed just got back from San Diego, and the burning question is, why are you here? But he also mentioned that it was so cold that he came back and he found that his funds were frozen. But I think that had something to do with a stopover in Las Vegas. Wasn't that it? Yeah. One last thing I have to share with you. I heard when we were having coffee in the other room, a fellow was saying that his wife had texted him earlier in the morning and with a text message that read, "Windows frozen, won't open." And he texts back, "Gently pour some lukewarm water over it." And she texts back 5 minutes later and says, "Well, the computer is really screwed up now." Okay, enough of that. We have a full agenda. We're moving right into it. I wanted to thank the Village of Sauk Village for hosting today. This is excellent, wonderful venue. Which brings us to the first speaker today, Mayor David Hanks from the Village of Sauk Village. David has been an official of the village since 1999. and was appointed on an interim basis mayor in 2012, November 2012. It was recently elected for his first full term as mayor. So David in his business travels a lot, including China, and I did come up with, and if there are any Chinese or those who speak Chinese, and I'm sorry if this is not appropriate, but Zhao Shang Hao, which is supposed to be good morning. So Zhao Shang Hao, Mayor, please come up.
Well, to respond back to Mike, it would have to be ni hao. So, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this morning and allowing us the opportunity to host this event. At Sauk Village, we're very excited and we're very honored for everyone coming out this morning. I'd like to start off with a thank you. There's quite a few people I'd like to thank. First of all, I'd like to thank the Senator for making his way out today and giving the update. I'd like to thank the Congresswoman for coming out. I'd like to thank the corporation for allowing us to host this, and for Mike. I did email Mike yesterday and said we have some important people going to be here, so make sure you work up on your jokes. He didn't take me seriously. But I'd like to thank all the sponsors that helped us provide food for you this morning. Hopefully everyone had enough. For the people standing up in the back, there is seats in front. This is not church, so feel free to come forward and fill those seats. But I also like to thank all the volunteers, and of course definitely our department heads, for the ones that are out there directing traffic out in this cold. As Mike said, it is very cold this morning. And I thank the volunteers that helped make sure that the tables were filled, make sure that they directed you where you needed to go. Hopefully they had you in the right direction. I see that you're here, so it's good. They didn't send you back out the door. So go ahead and get started with the presentation this morning. We got some fun facts this morning about Sauk Village. First of all, of course, Native Americans inhabited this area. The area was originally opened up to American settlers back in 1838. You see the Calumet Expressway was built in 1950, which opened up this area along the Calumet Expressway for homes to be built. We also know that Sauk Village was incorporated in 1957. The interesting fact is that it was not supposed to be Sauk Village, it was supposed to be called Strasburg. However, there was a community down in southern Illinois that was already named Strasburg, so we are known as Sauk Village as of today. Since being incorporated, we've had 7 mayors, and I, with myself being the 7th mayor. One of those names you might see up there, which is Ed Hazel. So, which is still around in the area and very much involved in the south suburbs, so we do appreciate that. Sauk Village has a population of approximately 10,500, and the average income for our community is right around $51,000. Transportation demographics, we see that, again, we have about approximately 10,500 residents. That residents were roughly, let's see, 228,000 residents within a 30-minute drive, nearly 1,310,000 residents within a 45-minute drive of Sauk Village if you go to the center. If you take a look at the driving distance, you have 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and 30 minutes. You can see how far you can make it from the center of Sauk Village. Sauk Village, we're very proud of our administration building, which you're sitting in today. It's approximately 7-8 years old. We also have our police department, where we used to have our administration building. Everything used to be in that small little building right next to us. That's where we used to have our village board meetings, our police department, our water department. So now we've been able to expand. We have a community center, which is out back, and of course we have our fire department. Sauk Village is a very diverse community with housing from all kinds, from your upper down to your basic ranch-style home. We also have a couple of pre-manufactured homes in Sauk Village. We have Weatherstone Parks, and we have Candlelight Village. Sauk Village has an apartment complex called Crossroads, and you can see the managers here today, and thank you for coming out. Sauk Village, if you look at this, some of the other things we have District 168, and I know the school superintendent's here, but thank you for coming out this morning. So, we have him, and he has his fan here, so thank you for bringing your fan. We also have our students go to Bloom Trail, which is 206. We have our public library. 3 of our schools are based right here in Sauk Village. We have Rickover Junior High, Strasburg Elementary, and Wagner Elementary. Comes to transportation locations. I say Sauk Village is a perfect location, but in the south suburbs, this is what we're about. There's numerous mayors sitting here today. In fact, if you're a mayor, raise your hand so everyone can see it today. But it's the south suburbs, and of course you're here in Sauk Village, so we're not pinpoint Sauk Village. But the thing about Sauk Village has access to rail. Union Pacific is right to the west of us. CN goes right to the middle of Sauk Village. We have perfect location when it comes to expressways. We have 55, 57, I-80, 94, 294, 355, and 394. You can also see that when it comes to populations for a one-day drive, when you use Chicago Heights as a base, because it's right over here, the amount of population that can be within one day is greater than Chicago and greater than Joliet. South suburbs have been a long-time destination for industrial manufacturing companies due to our location and how close we are to the city of Chicago. Sauk Village has direct access to Class 1 railroads. Sauk Village will have major improvements done to our water infrastructure, which we're glad to see that will start the spring of 2014. And we also offer great location when it comes to accessing your major expressways, which we've already covered. Sauk Village has quite a few industries in Sauk Village. We pride ourselves on when it comes to logistics, manufacturing, automotive, research and development. And these are just some of the companies that call Sauk Village their home. We have Jacobson, we have Minority Auto, Wayne Steel, Bear Paint, Paysetter Steel, Winpack, Set Steel, YRC, ADF, WSI, Steel Pro, Lewis Goetz, Gitz, sorry about that, Sigma, are just some of the companies that we have currently in Sauk Village. When it comes to our commercial and retail, we have branded name companies here in Sauk Village, here in businesses. Think about US Bank, Do It Best, Subway, Walgreens, Tidemax, Baskin Robbins, Boost Mobile, which just opened up, Popeyes, Dunkin' Donuts, the Dollar Store, Family Dollar, H&R Block, Currency Exchange, McDonald's. These are branded name businesses that are here in Sauk Village. Here's a fun little fact about businesses in Sauk Village have a combined total of in excess of 3,500 employees for a community of 10,500. Some of the Sauk Village's largest employers are YRC, District 168, Bear Paint, Paysetter Steel, ADF, Minority Auto, and Winpack. Now, when it comes to Sauk Village, we have open spaces available. And if you're here today, you're a developer, you're a contractor, we want you to come talk to us. So, but we have open space available. A little bit about the history. For the last 20 years, we have focused on economic development and giving incentives to industrial and manufacturing locations. Prior to that, Sauk Village was known as a place where you came and just had a house. It's more for residential. So for the last 20 years, and I've been on the board since 1999, so I guess that kind of ages me a little bit. We've been focusing on that. For a period of 1999 2008, before the recession hit, the village experienced growth in total EAV of approximately 125%. During the same period, the village saw industrial EAV grow nearly 200%. The village's industrial base now accounts for approximately 45% of our total EAV. Sauk Village has 3 TIF districts. One of our TIFs, and we have Brian Quigley, who's going to be one of the next speakers. She's going to talk a little bit about what's going on in one of our areas. But the TIF kind of gives you an idea for room for improvement, expansion. We're excited. This is a modern day location that has buildings that can meet your needs. Look at Sauk Village when it comes to available properties. We have commercial properties available. We have properties from single owners. When you look at the large area that we're talking about, this is one of our largest areas that's in yellow. That's the one that Brian's probably going to be coming up talking about this morning. This is one of our other TIFs. You can see that there's available land that the village owns. And there's also some parcels that are individually owned. So our village has always been proactive about helping businesses. We want them to take advantage of coming and moving to Sauk Village. We also give a wide range of incentives. And I'm not going to go through all these, but Class 6, Class 8, Class C. We have TIFs, which we already talked about. We have one of our TIFs that's sitting in an enterprise zone currently. Not too much longer if I remember right, but currently it is. Some of our economic development team. Shortly after becoming mayor, we took a look at our economic development team and how it's structured. We've made some changes. We put them in pillars. Our first pillar consists of myself working with our village attorneys. We've got Mary Thompson from the Office of McCain and McKenna, Ronald Bernardi from Bernardi Securities, Thomas Slattery from Baxter Woodman, Steve Zarnick from Robinson Engineering, Ed Hazel from South Florida Managers, and of course Mohon, our finance director. This allows us that when a developer or contractor reaches out to Sauk Village and says, I'm interested, we can ask exactly what they're looking for, what they need, and we can address their issues immediately. So it kind of puts us a little bit more on the fast track. Pillar 2 is once we find out exactly what type of business we're looking to locate and what they need, it allows us to go to our outside agencies and ask for support if needed. We work very closely with our state and federal representatives. We work with Cook County, South Florida Area Managers, CMAP, DECO, IDOT, and of course the corporation here. Then we get into Pillar 3. By the time we get to Pillar 3, all the major work's done, and we go to our village board. We have our department heads review what needs to be done so that things are moved on a fast track. And that's what we want to make sure, that we make it easy for a business or a corporation or a company to move to Sauk Village, and we'll make it as easy as possible. On overview, Sauk Village, I have to say, this is my personal opinion. I grew up in Sauk Village. I've been here for over 40 years. And I've raised my family here, and as the senator said, I do have 10 children. And I think what any parents go in life is that you raise your children to go off and you want them to hopefully come back and live in your hometown. And that's one of my goals, that as mayor, I want to make Sauk Village a place where my children want to come back and live here. So, you know, in my personal opinion, I think Sauk Village is a perfect place to bring your business. We are, when it comes to, there's some fun facts up there, we'll throw them real quick, that small businesses or large corporation, within a 30-minute drive from the center of Sauk Village are approximately 8,090 businesses with over almost 90,000 employees. This translates into 11.1 employees per business, well below the Illinois average of 16.1. So it kind of gives you a little bit of fun facts here. Sauk Village is a great location due to its immediate access to local highways, which we've talked about, and transportation. Sauk Village provides, which we touched a little bit about, the broad range of tax abatements and incentives. Sauk Village's motto is a community of pride and progress, and we encourage businesses to grow and prosper within our community. We want you to contact us if you're interested in Sauk Village. And I think this is my last slide. Just kind of want to show our village board. Of course, standing up here, so I'm mayor. The trustees that are here today in the village clerk, could you please stand up so everyone knows who you are? So I see we got Trustee Ostin, Trustee Myers, we got Trustee Burgess in the back, we got Trustee Washington. I thought there was missing someone. The village clerk is probably running around making sure everything's done. So, but we appreciate. We have a fantastic board. We have a board that has a love for our community just as I do. So, and we want to encourage business in our community. So I kind of went through it pretty quick, but you know, our time is taking a little bit up this morning with the senator coming in. So again, I'd like to say thank you very much for coming out to Sauk Village and allowing us to host this event.
Thanks, Mayor. That's great. And to keep the momentum going on the Sauk Village story, we've got Brian Quigley here from DP Partners. DP is the mover and shaker behind the Logistics Center, and Brian, come up and bring us up to speed on development. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Hanks. My name is Brian Quigley. I'm with Dermody Properties, and Dermody is a family-owned industrial real estate development company based in Reno, Nevada. And what's interesting about real estate development in Sauk Village is that you've got national players who have converged on Sauk Village for several reasons. One, logistics. We've got the best transportation infrastructure in metropolitan Chicago. We've got, as Mayor Hanks described, I-294, we've got 394, we've got I-80. You go north, south, east, or west. We've got great Class 1 rail infrastructure. And a lot of the commodities that come through east to west, you've got to go south of Lake Michigan. And so you've got a confluence of great rail. You've got water accessibility with Calumet Harbor. And so Germany Properties can invest anywhere in the country, but we selected Sauk Village for those reasons. Infrastructure, transportation, and also because of the business climate. Mayor Hanks is very business friendly, and really one thing that I'm here to talk about today is the building to my left is a 500,000 square foot industrial building built about 5 years ago, and we've had some vacancy in it, and there was a tenant whose lease was expiring, and a warehouse specialist is the tenant name. And they have a lot of opportunities to move to Indiana, where there are excellent economic benefits available. In fact, Indiana sometimes gives away land for free to attract customers. And we're also adjacent to Will County, where real estate taxes are a lot lower. And so we had a situation where tenant was expiring, they wanted to own, and we had a building available, but the building lacked rail. And so Mayor Hanks stepped up along with the trustees of Sauk Village and provided rail to the customer. And so that was the linchpin that brought a warehouse specialist to the table to purchase and invest in a $16 million building in Sauk Village and bring the jobs and bring real estate taxes, $500,000 in real estate taxes every year with no end. And so that's terrific. I'm just going to flip to the next slide. So here is a map of Metro Chicago with the rail called out, CN Rail. And so that is an enormous attribute. A lot of the customers that we find in this area are paper, chemical, the heavy industries with heavy requirements. And the most efficient way to transport those commodities are by rail. And so you've got to get around Lake Michigan. So anything that goes east and west, that's Lake Los Angeles to the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, comes through Chicago. And so we've got in Joliet, one of the largest inland ports in the world. But also here, we can, there are 6 Class 1 railroads. They all come together here. And so I know Reggie is working on a program let's talk about how we can exploit that infrastructure that exists. Where 2 Class 1 railroads intersect, there's an opportunity for a transload facility. And so let's figure that out. And so we've got great infrastructure here, and let's take advantage of it. This is an aerial of the 325-acre business park on Sauk Trail in 394. Cottage Grove is the west boundary. This is the business park before the infrastructure went in, so just a vacant farm field. But you can see, just from the aerial, you're right up against 394, just 6 miles south of I-80. Great location, great accessibility. Here's our business park today. We've got about 2 million square feet built out in the 325-acre park. We've got lots as small as 10 acres to accommodate a 50,000 square foot user. We've also got bigger lots, 90 acres to accommodate a 1 million square foot user. And so we're seeing very good activity today. And it's because of the infrastructure, the transportation that's available, but it's also because of the business climate that Mayor Hanks has created here in Sauk Village. And so it's a public-private partnership. This land is owned jointly by Germany Properties and Sauk Village, and so we're both invested in the community. Very unique situation we have here. So what are the advantages? Sauk Village has a geographic advantage that we just saw, based on rail coming through south of the lake and all the highways that are already in existence. Great transportation infrastructure. We've got rail service, direct rail service daily to our park, and that's a pretty unique feature. Not every municipality has rail service, and so the CN Rail provides service to our Logistics Center Business Park, and And so that's a coveted item. Third item is the unique public and private commitment of the project. Sauk Village is committed, they're invested, and so is the private sector with Dermody Properties. And then the last item is the transportation advantages. 394, 294, I-80, and 94. Those are heavy highway truck routes that are very accessible here in Sauk Village. The rail routes, the Canadian National in particular, providing service to the park daily. And then water, Calumet Harbor, Indiana Harbor. So of the four transportation modes, we're missing air, and maybe, as Mr. Senator Durbin described earlier, maybe we'll have air transportation here shortly. And so that's it. Appreciate it, everyone. Again, thank you for your hands, and thank you to the trustees.
I think you got a good picture of what's happening in Sauk Village. We've got very good representation here today. Take a minute or two after today's presentations and make a contact with a representative from the village. Even if there's a project not pending, the village can begin to send information as activities continue, and the sky's the limit. Now we're going to change hats a little bit right now. Excuse me, sorry. We're going to talk insurance. No, everybody sit down. No, I mean this. Mike Wojcik, the Vice President at Horton Group, is going to share observations and the business perspective on federal legislation. But before Mike comes up, he did share, just in general, over a cup of coffee, some interesting tidbits in his business. He said recently that he was dealing with a policyholder, and he asked the policyholder's wife, "Do you know the present value of your husband's policy?" And she said, "What do you mean?" And she said, if you should lose your husband, what would you get? And the woman thought a minute, then brightened up and said, "Probably a poodle." Little insurance humor there. One last one. Mike was telling about an insurance executive, a competitor, told his three sons, and the fellow recently passed away, very sad. That when he sent them to the university, he said, "I feel it's my duty to provide you with the best possible education, and you do not owe me anything for that. However, I want you to appreciate it. And as a token, please put $1,000 each of you into my coffin when I die." And so he passed. The sons had become, one son that was a doctor, one a lawyer, and following in his father's footsteps, the president of the very same insurance company. When they saw their father in the coffin, they remembered his wish. First, it was the doctor who put 10 $100 bills onto the chest of the deceased. Then came the lawyer, did the same thing, another $1,000. Finally, it was the heartbroken insurance exec's turn. Dipped into his pocket, took out his checkbook, wrote a check for $3,000, put it into his father's coffin, and took the $2,000 in cash. That really tears you up, doesn't it? Mike, please, join us.
Thank you. Mike, what a great introduction. I can't follow that. But now you know why I want to be a moving target when I'm speaking up here. It's usually how I present this topic. Although I didn't see any tomatoes in the room, so I feel rather safe. When Reggie asked me to present today, I was very grateful, very honored, and I certainly am. I asked him how many hours he wanted to speak on this topic. He said 0.25. So you are going to get the 0.25 version. However, I am going to make the slides available to anybody just leave me an email, or Reggie, I believe, will post it on the website. So thank you again. You know, we're coming into Super Bowl week, and everybody's talking about a game plan. And certainly every business has been talking about a game plan for several years now. And that's how to deal with the Healthcare Reform Act and how to understand it, what to do with it, what it means for their business, and how to move it forward. So being that there's such a diverse group here, there's a lot of spaces that this law covers, both from an individual standpoint, small groups, large groups, the marketplace, the impact of the Act of Taxes that we're now starting to hear about this year, and then the private exchanges that are coming out and taking the news forward. So I'm going to touch on a little bit of each one of those, but I'm going to push through a lot of slides, so bear with me on that. So what we know today is that health insurance and health care and the health industry is very complex. It's not just as easy as pressing a button on an internet for an airline ticket. It's more complex than that, but that's why the law came about. It was meant to simplify it to some degree, certainly meant to provide access and affordability to about 30 million, 40 million Americans. Here in Illinois, we have 2 million uninsured right now, and that's changing. So it's a positive thing. We did add in the Act of Laws insurance reform, important components I'll go through. We also talked about creating more preventive services and wellness and early detection, which ultimately does have an impact on healthcare costs. Those are all in place. We also talked about bending the trend and creating a little more sustainability for healthcare costs in the future. This is one that's the toughest. You don't hear a lot about it in the news because it's not a real hot topic, but believe me, it's going on behind the scenes. I'll talk about some. The win is shore to shore today, starting January 1st, any new policy through the insurance exchange, or now we call it the marketplace, is going to be offered on a guarantee issue basis, no pre-existing condition clause limitations. In many cases, the items are, policies are subsidized through federal subsidies for premium tax credits or subsidies for the deductible or co-insurance. Get Covered Illinois, it's now open. Terrible start, everybody will admit to that. It's getting better. We anticipate it'll get better. We missed some key dates though. So right now, the insurance exchange is still open. It's open until March 31st, which basically means it's open enrollment time. And what does that mean? Originally, when this law came out, everybody thought that somebody could sign up for a policy in an ambulance on the way to the hospital and get coverage because it's guaranteed. Not that easy. There's a time of year that will be called open enrollment. It's very similar to Medicare. Next year, or 2014, that door will open up November 14th. Right now, it's going to go through March 31st. Chances are, my bet is it'll be extended. But again, individuals throughout in between March and November then can only get into the programs with qualifying events, something happening in their family, divorce, newborn, etc. So we do know individuals, and the importance of understanding what impacts individuals if you're a business or an entity is really, you might have part-time employees, you might have employees that waive coverage now, and they're ultimately trying to understand this law and how it affects them. So you really want to kind of get into that space a little bit. So we do know that the Affordable Care Act has an individual mandate, has a penalty for those that don't take coverage. It's a pinch this year, I call it. Within 2 years, though, it's going to be real money to people, and they're going to take a look at this a little bit differently. The federal subsidies through the marketplace. The federal poverty level just changed yesterday. I put those on here this morning. The federal poverty level for an individual is $16,750. What does that mean? That's the guideline for all of these subsidies in higher categories. So we know in Illinois we expanded Medicaid to 138% of the federal poverty level. Using the new number, that means an individual making $16,000 could technically qualify for Medicaid. It's a monetary qualification now under this new law. For federal subsidies, we see that a family of four could make as much as $95,400. Sorry, this is a new way. $95,400 for a family of four, and they could receive federal subsidy to buy an individual with family member policy on the insurance exchange. So it is certainly doing what it's meant to do. It's meant to offer accessibility and affordability to individuals that might not be working for an employer, might be working part-time, or they might be working a little over 30 hours now, and that employer decided to cut back to under 30 hours. A lot of this is taking place right now. Standardization is taking place also of the policies, what they cover, what they're called. We're seeing that. In Illinois, our marketplace has 7 insurance carriers throughout the state that offer policies in this program. 3 of them offer group coverage. We also tried to simplify the benefits, or standardize, the law did. So taking and calling 10 different essential health benefits, identifying the need, identifying the most use, and making them part of every plan. Counterside to this, that's what you're hearing about, a lot of plans going up in cost. Some of these new services weren't included in the old plans, and they thus have costs in the plan. More competition was supposed to be created. Illinois was one of 24 states that was lucky to get co-op funding. So we have a new company that came out called the Land of Lincoln Health that right now offers small group and individual policies. They will probably expand to larger group down the road. Very aggressive company, one to look forward to and see what they do. So here's the stats so far on the individual marketplace. 53 million people across the country approached it. 11 million called the call center. 2.2 million applied. And 1.6 million, in addition to that, expanded to Medicaid. In Illinois, we have 61,000 that picked up policies, but these numbers are nowhere near what they need to get to. And hopefully we're going to have a bigger January in order to support this, to make it happen. Interesting, though, of the policies bought so far, 79% have been through some type of federal funding or subsidy. What else have we seen? More coverage, but higher deductibles, higher out-of-pocket. We all heard that in the news. What you didn't hear in the news is a lot of the networks that the insurance companies pair these with. Right now, we know there's big networks that we all have for our employer groups that pair them down as an option. Not as a replacement, but as an option. They cut about 20% off the cost. If they fit for an individual, it would behoove them to take a look at that and consider it. Also, the prescription formularies have been cut down. Higher deductibles. We're hearing of $5,000 and $6,000 deductibles, and that is nowhere near what an employer offers today in a place of business. But this is the reality of the insurance exchange and providing affordability. The downsides. Right now, carriers are backlogged with policies. They can't get them issued fast enough. People are going to the hospital, thinking they have coverage. They might not be through the system yet. That's a negative. Negative number 2, you're hearing it in the news today. You heard it last night. Moody's downgraded the health insurance industry from stable to negative. You're going to hear about Standard & Poor's taking it out on some individual carriers today in the news. So what else is up with the healthcare reform insurance exchange? There's small group products as well. So many businesses out there in their communities have 50 or fewer employees. They have a great advantage to take a look at the small group, what's called SHOP, small health options plans for 50 and under employees, and they could possibly get some tax credits if they're under 25 employees. This is not as robust as they wanted it to be this year. Actually, we were expecting to offer the market multiple choices, multiple carriers. Technology prevented it from going that far this year. If it comes back that way next year, watch for this, especially if you're a small business or know of one. And in 2 years, this will be 100 lives that will be eligible for this. And what you basically see, the ultimate goal of this product was to be multiple carriers, multiple plan designs, and you, the employer, allowing your employees to go and make that choice for themselves. It's a much different concept than what we're doing today, but that's what we're going to. Community rating is the last thing I'll touch on for small group, then we'll get into large. Community rating is another item that has an impact on cost. In particular, we don't ask for gender anymore, health status. We don't ask for what industry somebody works in. All of those were underwriting guides before. Now those are thrown out. What we're using, though, is family structure, how many members, what their ages are. They changed the tables to be no longer to charge between more than 3 times the amount of a 21-year-old for a 64-year-old. So a 3-to-1 ratio, which used to be 7-to-1, and in some cases 9-to-1. So what that's doing is raising the price of the younger crowds, and that's what you're hearing in the news right now. So what have we seen with this? Well, a lot of small employers didn't want to have this effect yet. They'd like to see the game a little bit further. They'd like to develop the game plan a little bit further before they really kind of go all out. So many small employers took advantage of last year what was called an early renewal option, which happened on December 1st. So they all gravitated, many of them, really 70 to 80% of small groups went in that direction, which basically said they could defer a lot of the ACA laws until next December 1st. Large groups could not take advantage of that. So what do we see for large groups? Well, same things are critical: affordability, accessibility, sustainability. But large groups do not have the community rating. They're based on their own performance. So how healthy their group is or how sick their group is. The things the United States is challenged with the most versus other countries, and this is an economist chart that we get out to our agency. It's basically comparing the United States to other countries because we always hear about how we're more expensive. Where are we more expensive? Basically starting at age 56. You see that chart going sky high? That's the United States. The other countries are stable. You might say that they don't invest in their 56-plus-year-old crowd the way that we do. I kind of like it this way right now, in particular. But it's a question of where we're going to go in the future. So, but this is a driving force of our cost of health insurance, particularly because our population is getting older. We also have a lot in the way of market consolidation. Even though we added a new insurance carrier, we've had a lot of consolidation over the years. We've also had consolidation of hospitals coming together, big healthcare systems coming together. New technology, robotic surgery, is taking over right now. It's costly, but it's very effective. Specialty drugs. We don't really know what that means yet. It's just coming into play. I give you the commercial that expresses it the best. Phil Mickelson, the golfer, is Enbrel, not the name of brand. It does wonderful things. It's for rheumatoid arthritis, I can barely pronounce that, sorry. But it's a $2,500 a month drug. Our plans is covered under the copay. Is that going to remain? Who knows? And that drug is on the lower cost of the specialty drug scale, typically about $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. The American Medical Association projecting that we're going to have a shortage of doctors. This is by 2020 we'll be short about 90,000 doctors, not just because of a whole new influx of people coming into the system, but also because of the system paying less. So a lot of doctors are deciding to retire. They're selling their practices to hospitals, working 8-hour days instead of 16-hour days. We've all felt a bit of the financing cost already. This is what's financing all the federal subsidies, the expansion of Medicaid, the taxes on the pharmaceuticals, the medical device, the taxes on employers. Every employer sitting in this room, you are experiencing it starting January 1st, the reinsurance tax, the quarry tax, the HIT tax if you're fully insured. If you're partial self-funded, you avoid the HIT tax. It's about 2.3% of your premium. The biggest one that most public entities are concerned about is the Cadillac tax. We've done some forecasting on many businesses, and by the year 2018, if this does not change, it will be a very expensive excise tax. And a lot of plans, not because there's Cadillac benefits, but because they're Cadillac costs. It's purely a cost test on this. Insurance reforms, more to go through than I have time for. Biggest ones, guarantee issue, no pre-X. Some rate relief. There are some things built into the system that I said behind the scenes we don't hear a lot about. Narrow networks are obvious, cutting back benefits on pharmacies, obvious, but improved quality and outcomes. Doctors and hospitals have a lot of new ways that they're being contracted with insurance companies, different than ever before. And they're more based on outcomes-based, improved lifestyles. It's a performance-based contract, whereas before, everything was a transaction. Every time something was prescribed, the register rang, the bill went to the patient or the insurance company and it raised their costs. Now it's going to be based on outcomes, performance, safety, etc. So why do employers still want coverage? 93% of employers with 50 employees or more still want to offer a health plan. Why? The ROI is pretty darn good yet. In order to attract, retain, create morale, it's the best item that's out there. So pushing through these, the compliance, we know what that is, what we all have to do. Again, the list is available to everybody. These are all components that will go into your plan. So ending up here with the game plan of where we're going to be, we're taking a look at adjusting our plans, possibly going self-funded. We're looking at a new concept here called defined contribution and a private insurance exchange. Watch for it. It's going to be hitting the news quite a bit. Most employers will avoid the penalties that are associated with this. You know, they're still going to offer a plan. They're going to offer the right plan so they don't get hit with penalties. But they're doing the homework on it right now. Eligibility management. You've heard it from UPS last year, talking about working spouses that work somewhere else are no longer going to be covered or eligible on their plan. So that's something that we're going to see that's going to be mainstay with most companies. High deductibles, consumerism, transparency, every one of our plans. So when we go buy a TV right now at Best Buy, we want to compare it, we want to see what it offers, we want to take a look everywhere. Same thing's going to happen in healthcare. Meeting the physician shortage. In the meantime, we're taking a look at what's called telemedicine. And here's the final game-winning plan. So consumerism is going to be main stage. It's going to be engagement of the individual, of the employee. Everybody is going to be considered a possible individual that will affect the cost of healthcare. Everybody needs to know how it works. High deductible plans and HSAs will be mainstream. Health management will be mainstream. So wellness programs at work. Most employers will develop strategies to avoid penalties. They're going to take a look at the eligibility management, and they're also going to take a look at innovations, such as defined contribution, telemedicine, smaller networks, private exchanges, etc. So basically, that is the presentation today. The big question is, what's your game plan? And are you all aware of all of these items that have been staging to go into effect this week, or this year, next year, and the year after? So I appreciate the time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. That will be online, that presentation, because there's an awful lot to digest there, so thanks very much. Next presenter, Rusty Winch will spend as much time out here as I think I have recently. Rusty's been involved with the Southland Fiber Optics Network, and he's going to bring us up to speed on that. Rusty, I did look for jokes on fiber optics. There was one website called 10 Fun Facts About Fiber Optics, but it talked about dietary fiber and trying to come up with jokes, and it didn't work for me at all. So there was only one short one. Photon checks into a hotel, and the bell clerk asks if he has any luggage. He said, "No," says the Photon, "I'm traveling light."
A lot of what we've been talking about today is infrastructure. Some of Dick Irwin's remarks to start out talked about the Ilion Expressway and the South Suburban Airport. We all know how important these infrastructure projects are to the health and success of business and quality of life in the southern suburbs. One of the things that we've been working on for a while here is another infrastructure project. Not as large as the airport project, and doesn't cover quite the geography that the Ilion Expressway does. But the good news is that our fiber project is in the final stages of construction, and we're getting ready to start providing services to business, industry, and public sector entities in the Southland. That's nice. Oh, there's a map there. The project to build fiber optics in the Southland started almost exactly 2 years ago. In October of 2011, Governor Clinton announced the grant funding to put the pilot project into the Southland, and we began actually putting fiber in the ground in February of 2012. Since that time, we've built out north-south fiber along I-57. We've built laterals into the garden spots of the Southland, including Madison, Tinley Park. We've got Moni all constructed. We've got work started in the Markham area. We've got fiber built into just off the Expressway and Blue Island. We're continuing on those east-west laterals that will provide connection to, again, business and industry with fiber and high-speed broadband to better support business, industry, and our public folk. The north-south corridor is about 27 miles of fiber. There's going to be approximately 35 additional miles of east-west fiber connecting to the various municipalities that border I-57. What is connectivity? Connectivity is essentially broadband, as much as an incumbent would provide you with a DSL line, would provide you with a cable modem. The SSMA project, the Chicago Southland Fiber Network, is about connecting high-speed links to you so you can communicate better, faster, and at a cost-effective rate to the global economy, to businesses that surround you, between your manufacturing and your administrative centers. And we had done a research project in 2007 that looked across the region and said, you know, what exists in broadband infrastructure today, what is available, and in large part, low-speed broadband was available, and in many cases it was incredibly cost-effective. What wasn't in place was the high-capacity links that were required to do things like computer-aided design drawings being sent across a network. There was not the ability to do high-speed backups across an infrastructure to another location because the infrastructure to support that activity didn't exist. We've been in the process of building that network and putting that fiber optic network in place again over the last 2 years to try to remove that bottleneck and to make those services available here. As part of our establishment of services in the area, we had gone through a competitively bid request for proposal. One of the business partners selected as
The result of that competitive bid was Urban Communications. Urban Communications has been a long time business established in Oak Forest. Through that bid process, they've been established as a network operations center for the Chicago Southland Fiber Network, along with providing some of our marketing and the commercial services component of what is going to be on the network. I'd like to introduce Ed Urban, the president of Urban Communications, and have him talk a little bit about some of the services that are going to be put in place on the fiber.
Thanks, Rusty. I think I stand back here so we don't get the feedback. As Rusty talked about gigabit speeds, and one of the things that people have to realize is the low-speed connectivity that we have today. Most businesses understand what a T1 line is. A T1 line is 1.5 megabits. The services that we're going to start turning up this spring for businesses and government throughout the Southland here are going to be a gigabit, 1,000 megabit. So that is a huge jump, allowing for the infrastructure to basically flood the roads with traffic. What kind of services are going to be available? First basic service is dark fiber. Dark fiber may be used by telecommunications carriers, large corporations, as a transit for a private network throughout the region. And in fact, as part of this project, we are connecting both the Southland fiber network here to a more robust broad network. We also operate a network for the City of Aurora, the Online Aurora project, which that project connects all the government buildings in the City of Aurora, as well as community hospitals and schools. Additionally, we're going to be hooking to the NIU net and to the iFiber network. The iFiber network is a $68 million fiber project that Northern Illinois University operates out in the 10 western counties of the state. All these will become contiguous with the Southland here, bringing huge economic growth. So if you have a large corporation that's in Aurora, wants to locate a facility here in the Southland, they will have the ability to connect on a local network between point A and point B on dark fiber ostensibly. Additionally, commercial internet services, what we talk about today, high-speed internet connectivity. This network is going to be multi-home, meaning that it has no single point of failure. The multi-homing will provide a connection to the main data center in downtown Chicago, Illinois, as well as a data center which is connected to the internet backbone in Oak Brook, Illinois, as well as connectivity through the state CMS fiber all the way down to St. Louis. A huge web of connectivity that is going to be centered right here in the Southland. As part of this project, our company has allocated $1 million worth of resources to build out a Tier 4 data center in Oak Forest, Illinois. We basically started construction on that this week. That will be the backbone location where the network is home from. We will initially have space for 50 server cabinets, which are roughly 8 foot tall. Those 50 cabinets will be available for businesses, governments, customers to co-locate servers there for emergency backup, for web hosting, for cloud services, for business reconstitution. We've already been talking with governments and counties throughout the state that are going to be on the wider network. Kane County is looking at the opportunity to co-locate their backup servers down here in southern Cook County so that if there's a disaster in Kane County, their data is available and is not interrupted. Other services, CAD, I know there's a number of engineering firms here. They'll be able to use the facilities for transferring huge CAD files, data files. GIS, huge infrastructure need by the GIS people in local municipalities sharing those GIS files throughout the counties that make up the area. Other activities for hosted services and use of the network, is video surveillance. Video takes a huge amount of capacity to send high-speed streaming video to a data center. We anticipate that we will be storing video for municipalities where they can go on a shared service to store video from surveillance throughout the community and have access to that in a time of need. Basically, any connectivity that is commercially available now, we're going to be able to provide it at a substantially reduced price from the standpoint of the high-speed capacity that you would find with the other incumbent commercial telcos. Because it's going to be delivered to your door, it's a public-private partnership. I think that the ability here is going to be the scale of these services to meet the community needs. Rusty?
The great thing about the infrastructure is that the heavy lifting has been done. Primary backbone is in, lateral installation is continuing. It's limited. It's really kind of too bad to be standing in here in Sauk Village and understanding that this initial fiber infrastructure doesn't come here today, but we're coming. Yeah, we're going to be continuing to expand the footprint that you saw on the initial map that we put up. The great news is that we're starting to look for you, the interested participant in this network, to start providing the actual services. We're installing equipment. We will continue to light up this network during the month of February, and by the middle of March, we will be able to start providing both lit services and provide fiber-enabled services to any location that sits on the initial fiber footprint that you've seen there. We've got several folk here today who would be happy to talk with you about that, about whether or not we could provide service to your location. Ed Urban is certainly part of that team. Ed Conlon here from our NIU team that's been working on the project has got pencil ready. I would be happy to continue that conversation, or please give Ed Hazel a call anytime and have him talk with him about what's available, and I'm sure he'll redirect you back our direction to continue that conversation. But fiber connectivity, what we consider really part of the critical infrastructure for a healthy economic development environment, is here, and we're ready and able to provide quality services to the Southland. Thank you.
Thanks, Rusty. Our final presenter today, those of them involved in tax increment financing, when you're doing setting up a district and whatnot, the but-for statement always comes out that basically says, if we don't do this, we're not able to move forward on development. I think from a development corporation standpoint, our but-for statement would have to include Cook County. They've been a partner. They've been open to our needs and the directions that we need to go, and they've been supportive in every program that we've presented to them. We've got very good fortune to have with us today Michael Jasso, the Director of the Department of Planning and Development. Bring us up to date on your operation, Mike, and talk about the county's overall economic development program. Please.
Thank you. Good morning. And you're not going to get a solo presentation from me because I brought Deputy Courtney Pogue, who also helps run the Bureau's activities with respect to economic development and planning. As I was introduced, my name is Michael Jasso. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for Cook County. When we're talking about tips, I thought we were going back to a little bit of my past because I used to head up the Bureau of Economic Development for the City of Chicago, and under that manage the tax increment finance program for the city. So yes, definitely know the but-for issues. But one, I want to thank the Chicago Southland EDC for having me here. I certainly also want to thank the village for hosting, hosting this event at really this beautiful space, and Mayor Hanks for its kind hospitality with respect to that. So I think a couple of things. I'm just going to cover a little bit about the structure of the Department of Planning and Development for Cook County. A lot of people don't know what we do vis-a-vis individual jurisdictions and so on, how we relate to the city. So Department of Planning and Economic Development is one department and part of the Bureau of Economic Development. That bureau includes things you would traditionally expect it to include. It includes capital planning, real estate, as well as liaison to many of our sister agencies or sister departments, such as transportation, our work with the newly formed or relatively newly formed Cook County Land Bank, the South Suburban Land Bank. I see Russ is here, and very much partner with other organizations and entities throughout. The department is generally broken up into three principal areas. Those areas are housing, community development, and economic development. In our housing activity, we are the principal department that's both with respect to housing as well as other kinds of activities. We are the principal department within Cook County that is the recipient of federal entitlement funds. So to the extent that the county receives community development block grant funds, CDBG, home funds, home investment funds, which are used for housing, emergency solutions funds. We recently were the recipient of funding that is going towards emergency funding from the federal government for flood mitigation. It was a grant of $13-some million to Cook County to work with many of those communities affected by the floods of a little bit, I guess about a year and a half ago. So with respect to that. To give you a sense on the entitlement front, Cook County receives about $10 million of CDBG funding annually. We receive about $4 million of home funding annually. And that gets distributed to many jurisdictions through a competitive process with respect to CDBG and through an application best projects process with respect to home. On the housing front, we have been very active with respect to home funds, which is principally used to support affordable rental housing development. We were fortunate to be a partner and proud to be a partner with Lansing in the development of St. Anthony Senior Center, which is 100-some senior dwelling units in Lansing. We contributed about $1 million of home funding as a loan. So we're very active there and always trying to push the envelope. We also recently did something that Cook County hasn't done for a long time, and actually, having come from the city, I know the city hasn't done for a long time, which was to use our conduit lending capacity, borrowing capacity, to extend tax-exempt financing in terms of tax-exempt bonds to a project, a housing project, and that's one that we expect to do increasingly, affording the opportunity for not-for-profit developers who are doing affordable housing, but also, as many of you know, there's a peer to that, which is the industrial revenue bond financing, which we see opportunity increasingly. It had disappeared for a while for a number of reasons, both at the county level, city level, but I think we see opportunities to explore that increasingly. On the community development front, CDBG, it is a principal source of funding for economic development that is entitled to the county through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. So I mentioned we get about $10 million of CDBG funding. To give you an idea, last year we made 29 capital improvement grants to over 22 different municipalities, principally actually in the south, far south, southwest communities for infrastructure development. We made another 41 public service awards towards social service agencies, providing a wide array of activities, everything from that you would expect from counseling, adult programs, and a broad range of projects. So it's something that we expect to continue. One of the things that we have done in recent years under the administration of President Preckwinkle is to try to be more impactful. Really think about when we're making investments. It isn't just about getting money out the door. That's always one of the observations, which is, hey, it's government, you guys will spend it. Have no doubt about it. The real issue is spending it wisely and in projects that are really going to be impactful in the community. So last year, one of the things we did do is move a little bit away from making lots of small grants to a fewer number but larger grants on projects that are truly have an opportunity to be catalytic. So we expecting to do that increasingly. So one of the things it means is we are going to be more circumspect in the projects we fund, but we are also going to be very cognizant about trying to make sure that we are spreading funding reflectively throughout those communities that fall within Cook County. Our federal entitlement funds, as an overarching thing, are generally limited to either low and moderate income communities or servicing low and moderate income populations. One or the other generally has to be met. Or servicing special populations, homelessness, etc. We get some funding with respect to that. One of the things we did do last year, though, which was kind of increasingly interesting from a community development or an economic development perspective, was we had an opportunity to partner and provide $450,000 towards economic infrastructure. And by that I mean this was done for Sterling Lumber in Phoenix and Harvey, and we were proud to be partners in that project, where we used our community development block grant to provide basically infrastructure that was needed in order to accommodate the growth and expansion of Sterling Lumber at that location. It was not through a grant from them, but it literally was our directly funding that, and it was directly tied to economic development jobs. It was directly tied to seeing this as a catalytic piece of investment towards the success of that business and the jobs that are associated with that business. So we see increasing opportunities for the county to become very active in that. The county, for a long time, hadn't been active in these areas, but we really appreciate that one of the things the county can do that's more difficult for individual jurisdictions is to largely seek connectivities beyond individual jurisdictional boundaries. And we know that business, with respect to where their workforce comes, does not respect the boundaries of a city or individual community. So businesses can be impactful across many communities in a given region, and we think that as a partner, Cook County can be that kind of broad partner for those businesses while still and achieve the kind of growth and investment that we want to see across the region, because as the region goes, very much individual communities go. And so our goal is to work with the individual jurisdictions, to work with organizations like the Southland, Chicago Southland EDC, on promoting economic development. So with that, just a quick overview also of economic. We also provide and implement the economic tax incentive projects. Those are the typical tax incentives, the Class 6Bs, many other classes that help promote economic growth. Broadly, in 2013, we did 57 tax incentive projects totaling over $160 million of investment, and with the potential generating up to 3,000 jobs. Those were principally in the areas of Class 6Bs, Class 8s, and 7Bs. And with that, I would like to turn it over right now to talk a little bit more about what we're doing on the economic development front, both from what exciting thing we can see coming up, which is the Built and Cook Loan Fund, as well as the expansion of the county's tax incentives. And I'd ask Courtney Pope to step up for a couple of minutes and talk to those.
Good morning. I'll be very brief. We're running late. My name's Courtney Pogue. I'm the Deputy Director of Economic Development for Cook County. Well, as Mike alluded to, I'm in charge of the Built and Cook Loan Fund. Last April 2013, the county received $30 million from HUD for a loan program which were geared toward economic development. Where we plan on funding is more or less industrial projects, commercial projects, and we particularly may look at residential projects. The program is basically structured in two tranches. One tranche will be for large projects, as far as loan proceeds being from $500,000 to $5 million. The second tranche we call the Built 50/40 program will be for projects where we're providing loan funds from $70,000 to $500,000. The way we see the Built and Cook Loan Fund work is that typically you have a senior lender that's going to provide a loan between 60 to 75% loan to value. Well, what happens there's a gap. So what the county wants to do is we want to help you fill the gap. If the developer or investor brings 10% to the table and you still have the 75% loan to value, we'll come in and bring the 15%, therefore making the projects move forward and have a successful project. So we're looking to roll this loan program pretty aggressively on 2014. We're currently looking at a couple of projects, and so we're looking to get feedback and provide data and look at some of your projects in the county. As far as our tax incentives, as Mike alluded to, we did 57 tax incentives as far as Class 6B, Class 7, which is for commercial, Class 8 is used very widely in the south suburbs. Going back to Class 7, Class 7 has not been widely used in the county as far as commercial projects. That's really geared toward your strip centers, shopping malls, car dealerships, hotels, and so on. So we're looking to do more of those. I was alluded to from 99 to 2012, there probably were 3 done. Well, last year we did 3 alone. So we're looking to roll that out more aggressively as far as providing a tax incentive. As far as the modifications, last July, we made a modification to the Class 6B program and the Class 8 program. What that entails is that typically for an owner, a building that's not been purchased for value, meaning that it has the same owner, you have to wait 2 years, 2 years of vacancy. So what the county has done is reduce the vacancy period from 24 months to 12 months. So that helps some of the brokers out. I see some of you guys smiling and very happy about that. So it allows you to apply for a Class 8 in a shorter period of time. The next tax incentive is more or less the Class 6B. Typically a Class 6B was geared toward new construction, acquisition, and rehab. What we have done is more or less modify that. We're currently going to allow long-term industrial tenants who have been in Cook County 10 years or longer and meet the criteria to apply for a Class 6B. So some of those companies have been in Cook County 20 years, been passed on, legacy corporations. They have a good sized footprint. They add value to the county. We want to help you. We heard you complain. We heard from the brokers. We heard from the owners. So we made the modification where we're going to allow those long-term industrial companies to apply for a Class 6B. So we want to, economic development is also, it's about job retention. So we're hearing people are looking to go to other counties, or leaving the region, or leaving the state. We want to keep you here. So we look at it as a new tool as far as encouraging economic development within the county. With that, I'll turn it back over to Mike. As I said, I'll be brief. So thank you. We got the brochures in the back regarding the program.
So just a couple of, thank you, Courtney, just a couple of quick closing comments. I'm sure everyone's anxious to get on with the day, but I think I just want to give you a glimpse of what's ahead in the coming year for the county. And a very important part of that, what's ahead, if you have an opportunity as you're heading out or when you came in to grab flyers, one of the things we're engaging in this year is a process called Planning for Progress. Every 5 years, both Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, as well as Department of Commerce through the Economic Development Administration, requires the county to submit 5-year plans with respect to where it intends to go on an economic development front and a community development front in terms of investment, in terms of utilizing federal dollars and leveraging that to both get other kinds of grants, both for the county but also for jurisdictions within the county, as well as from philanthropic other sources. So we are currently undertaking that process of planning, which is to culminate in the consolidated annual plan, which is a consolidated plan, which is a 5-year strategic plan for where the county expects to go in terms of its investments of CDBG, home funding over the next 5 years, and also how it expects to leverage that to promote economic development, housing development, etc. What's unique is that it also occurs simultaneously to while we're undertaking what's called the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, CSEDC planning, which is required from the Department of Economic Development Administration, which specifically speaks to economic development, the kinds of projects. To give you an idea, in the past, the county's economic development plan has generally been, we expect and plan to do economic development. And that was pretty much the plan. So the problem is that that doesn't make you very competitive when you're trying to leverage either EDA kind of grants, nor other kinds of grants that may exist on the federal government or philanthropies. What's unique is that this is one of the first times that both those agencies within the federal government have allowed an urban county such as Cook County to undertake that planning process simultaneously and use basically all the meetings, all the information, etc. for both those planning processes. We just held our first of our sub-regional meetings, which was held in Blue Island about a week and a half ago. We have 2 sub-regional meetings that are coming up. There's a very active online survey tool that we have that's available. You'll see the website on the flyer outside there. I really encourage it because traditionally one of the voices that's very absent in these planning processes is the private sector. Businesses, organizations that really represent jobs and growth are typically not active partners in participating in this. We are making very deliberate attempts to try and encourage that kind of input because at the end of the day, one of the things we do understand is that we, as the county, as government, do not generate jobs. We can help create, hopefully, a good environment under which private entities such as yourselves generate jobs. But it's important to hear from you with respect to what our priorities should be as we move forward on this. So that's one of the more important things coming up, and I encourage everyone to take part. Other things we're going to be doing is working both at the county level, but also with individual municipalities as we reevaluate and look at expiring state enterprise zones, where we should recreate those. We think those are very powerful engines. We also are likely to be undertaking a look at potential application as the county for an allocation of new markets tax credits that we can leverage towards economic development projects throughout the county. So a lot of activity. We encourage your active participation. We hope to be out here a lot more than Cook County may have traditionally been in the past and be partners in promoting your visions and dreams and investments that we think are catalytic for obviously the residents of Cook County and the cities that make up Cook County. So with that, I close and thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike. It's not your dad's county planning department, is it? No, this is a new day. Thank you very much for coming out today. I wanted to thank Mayor Hanks, Mr. Quigley, Wojcik, Mr. Winchell, and Mr. Jasper for their presentations, the Senator and the Congresswoman for participating. Got one thing to leave you with, if I could, sort of a paid advertisement here. We don't do this very often. Right now, we have about 70 investors in the Southland Chamber. We're looking, I think, to make 2014 100. Let's go for 100 this year. What do you think? The Development Corporation's program has been focusing a lot on manufacturing and logistics. You heard a little bit about that today. Brownfield Initiative, training skilled workers in manufacturing, the formation of the Southland Development Fund, and not last but certainly not least, 7 municipalities working together in Las Vegas on retail development. Holly's here. Holly Campbell. Holly, you around? Or is she in the back? Okay. Reggie's here. If you'd like to talk more about the Development Corporation and how you might want to participate and invest, we'd love to hear from you. So thanks very much for today. I've got one development observation, if I could, here. In a recent federally funded study, I think this was done through NACO, I'm not sure. Medical researchers were conducting studies on doses of a, quote, performance-enhancing medication, not unlike Viagra, on an equal number of South Cook County economic development directors and Chicago area developers. While a majority of the economic development people achieved a level of improved libido and performance, the results showed that the developers simply grew taller. The researchers remain at a loss for this result. Thanks very much for coming out today. Be careful out there, it's slippery.